Crazy.
History is crazy. Like, who's in charge of these things, man?
Themselves.
What's good, y'all? It's the Demouchets React, and we're back with another video. Who we got today, C?
Today we are back with another American reaction.
Yes.
We're super excited about this video, guys. If you're new to us and
we're
we're
new to you,
make sure you scroll down, hit that red subscribe button, and turn on the post notification bell because we're on the road to 50K. And we cannot get there without you guys, all right? Join the family. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
The history of the British Isles is an uneven affair, to put it mildly. We're familiar with how Scotland and Ireland drew the imperial short stick and enjoyed the pleasure of being sat upon by England, but perhaps the shortest stick of the bunch was drawn by Wales, who was often left out of the discussion entirely. And while I'm shocked that anybody could gloss over the country that is a freaking dragon flag, Wales has been tragically sidelined from the historical narrative of the Isles, and I will not stand for it. Wales has impressively and improbably maintained a distinct Celtic culture since the very start, and it is far too cool for historians to be doing them dirty like that. To see how Wales did the hard carry for Great Britain's culture for 2,000 straight years, let's do some history. A proper understanding of this whole Wales business requires us to go way back in British history. No, too far. Yeah, there we go. See, Celtic culture in Britain is the foundation of what will eventually become Wales, but these guys aren't the easiest to get a handle on. The Celtic, or Gallic people, stretched out from Central Europe towards Gaul, Iberia, and the British Isles, but also went southeast towards the Black Sea, and one problem for us loser historians is that it's unclear how, and even kinda if, they settled in Britain. There are competing theories for who, when, where, and why, ranging from the standard migration models to the possibility that very few Celts actually settled in Britain. Logic being that overseas trade was key to the Bronze Age economy, and Britain's tin deposits made them a big export hub. Since tin is half the chemical structure for bronze, that meant people from all over Europe and the Mediterranean came to the Atlantic coasts to get their bronze on, and this includes our Celt boys. So it wasn't mass migration that brought Celtic people to Britain, but rather local Britons who buddied up with Celtic traders by speaking their language and copying their swirly Latin art. So according to this meme model, the local Britons thought Celtic culture was LOL so relatable XD that they adopted it all up and down the Isles. Whether or not this model is fully accurate, it would account for some weird archaeological and linguistic discrepancies in the traditional migration theory, and it also foreshadows the prestige placed on bards and literary prowess by later Celtic cultures. Because it's equal parts cool as all hell and existentially horrifying that a culture can basically by itself take hold of an entire population by willing itself into existence. This would be our first indication that Wales has big eldritch energy. Other civilizations, however, would not follow this lead because the Romans found that culture was best delivered by spear point, while on their way to fill out their Pan
Oh, you caught that? Mm-hmm. So, Rome had a different way of trying to name their own, or regain their own, or colonize their own. Mm-hmm. But I hear in Wales, if I'm not mistaken, this is Wales, right? Wales, they just did it themselves.
Right.
Which I didn't know you can do. I didn't know you can do that. So
history is crazy.
History is crazy. Like, who's in charge of these things, man?
Themselves.
Obviously. So you mean to tell me if a group of people get together, they can get together and they can call something their own with the finances they have?
Guess so. History just...
History
is a little bit mean sometimes.
Oh, heck yeah. If you do your research, you can definitely repeat certain acts or follow blueprints that are still legal to do today.
Right.
Because people don't even think like that. Like, they think that, oh, I'm about to just go to work and go home. Mm-hmm. Like, you can literally get, like, your finances to an abundance level and own things.
Right. I want a Demouchet Island.
Demouchet Island?
Yes, Demouchet.
We can have seafood.
We have to have
seafood.
Punch card and get their 10th new province free, Roman emperors in the mid-1st century campaigned into Britain. Most Roman settlements were in the south and east, where all the easy agriculture was, and although goods, coins, and Roman legions did make their way west, the cultural and linguistic impact on so-called Britannia Secunda was only slight. Perhaps the most transformative thing the Romans did in Wales was leave, because the post-Roman migrations from Central Europe into Britain totally upended the island's demographics. Frustratingly, it's nigh impossible to show this kind of thing clearly on a map, which is why turbulence months entries in history with slim documentation make blue a sad boy, but here's the gist. We know the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes from northern Europe arrived and displaced many of the Romano-Britons, but over in the west there was also an influx of Irish Celts coming in to settle. This age of migrations was much more overtly migratory than the Celtic arrival in Britain in the millennium before, though, again, the native Britons didn't really leave. After a few decades of raiding gave way to much more peaceable settlement, most Britons were happy to start speaking Germanic and make friends with their new Saxon neighbors than to up and book it for the hills. Still, the end result was the confinement of native Celtic culture to the far west in Wales and Cornwall. And that split explains why it's called Wales. It comes from the Germanic word wala, meaning foreigner, while the Welsh call it Cymru, from the Celtic word for countryman. It's also in this migratory shuffle that the legend of the Romano-British King Arthur first pops up, though it'll be a couple centuries before he's labeled as Arthur or a king. Honestly, the whole early medieval period in Wales has this pseudo-mythic Age of Heroes vibe to it. Good documentation is blah, what else is new, but the oral traditions that will later become the core of Welsh epic...
Side note, because Dion brought up the costumes. Not costumes. I know it's not costumes, guys, but I'm thinking like with my theater brain. So, could you all imagine? I don't know how the weather is in Wales, but I heard that it's like mild weather, right? Mm-hmm. So could you all imagine still being there with today's weather, still dressing how they dress? Thank God for evolution. Because those little... I'm calling it chains because that's what it reminds me of.
It is little smaller chains.
And those little plates, those little silver plates around your feet. I bet that was loud.
Just imagine walking around with keys in your pocket, but forever.
Forever, all day.
So you walk around jingling. Like there was no Santa Claus then, but you was jingling.
He said there was no Santa Claus. Oh my God.
Man, what?
Nothing. Santa Claus.
Okay.
Wait a minute, Santa Claus, babe.
Yeah, he's he's jingling out bags and gifts and stuff.
He don't even have to say ho ho. His outfit gonna say ho ho for him.
There you go.
Literature can't start in this era. So, as far as we can tell, what was going on in medieval Wales? Well, isolation from Germanic majority England was good for preserving a unified Celtic culture, but the politics were much more wibbly. Various local princes vied for hegemony over the many disparate realms, but
So they saw dragons.
Oh God.
They had to.
No.
Dragons was big for them.
Oh Lord.
succession always proved their undoing, as sons would squabble and big kingdoms would shrink back to where they started. The princes of Gwynedd and Powys were the most successful of the bunch, and as a result, King Offa of Mercia built a dike across his border in the late 700s to try and keep Powys out. But that worked about as well as any frontier walls have worked throughout history, which is to say,
The Kaiju and the Northern Category 4 broke through the coastal wall in less than an hour.
barely. So despite the best attempts of Saxon kings and the Irish Sea, Wales wasn't entirely cut off from the rest of the world, as they had gotten on board with Christianity thanks to the missionary Saint David back in the 6th century. They might not have been the most consistent of pen pals with the Pope in Rome, but they were mostly on the same page. Wales' early medieval history of relative chill was aided by England's near-constant Viking tire fire, which pushed Conquer Wales way down the to-do list. But that changed when our old pals the Normans kite-shielded their way to conquering England, because suddenly this new Norman England had a much stronger army, and they proceeded to point it right at Wales. Norman lords pushed into Wales along the northern and southern coasts and made some, but not a lot of progress. Since Wales was made of small principalities, the Normans could play the Welsh off each other, but then all of their gains were only incremental. Not so easy as winning Hastings and calling it.
Is gaining territory ever like just a hand me over thing? Or is it always taken by force? Because if that's the case, the people that's going in and out of Wales was doing damage, bro. Them was beating,
I don't know. I don't see nothing being handed over.
Not when you're trying to gain territory.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, Wales took a licking, yo.
Yeah.
And they're still taking it, as you can see in this video. Like
everybody wants to try Wales.
Everybody was beating. They was bullying them.
Yep.
Basically, because if you gonna go over there, gain it, have it, and then not like what you got,
and then leave,
and then gonna tell your other homeboy about it, be like, yeah, bro, they got a little houses over there. You feel me? Go do your little thing.
Yeah, the weather ain't good.
Really? Let me go tell you, bro. We got we got shelter.
Yeah, but the farmland's alright.
That day. While casual war was the standard for the next 200 years along the borderland marches, elements of Anglo-Norman and Welsh culture made their way across. The princes of Gwynedd, Powys, and Deheubarth picked up some Norman political structures, and England learned about Welsh longbows the hard way. Although Wales didn't form into a unified nation, they did get close a couple times. Llewellyn Var fought off his family members to become Prince of Gwynedd and proceeded to back all of his enemies out of the way so that he could assert his hegemony over Wales. He also tried to streamline the rules for royal succession so that every interregnum didn't immediately explode into a civil war. He then pushed eastward into the March and defeated King John of England so handily that his barons made him sign the Magna Carta to stop being such a royal
I heard about
mob.
that in school.
Llewellyn's military successes weren't quite matched by his grandson, also Llewellyn. Though he did the biggest Prince in Wales routine again, he was defeated by England's King Edward Longbow.
Papa did all that work
and stomped out the princes, using the old Norman trick of building a buttload of castles in newly conquered territory to stop the locals from getting ideas.
They
A twist that should surprise no one, England needed more than a few of these to do the trick, so Wales has the highest castle density of any country in Europe, with over 600 built and 100 still standing today. That is, and I really cannot stress this enough, a stupid amount of castles. That's the density equivalent of 23 castles in New York City, with a less impressive but still formidable 2 castles just in Manhattan. Good lord! In any case, the post-conquest period was a weird century for Wales. Suddenly they were subordinate to England, but soon they got tied up in the 100 Years' War, and then everybody had plague to contend with. So while it was a real wacky time, it was also surprisingly indicative of the history still to come, as England goes about its business while holding a pillow over Wales' face, gently shushing them.
I don't know if they knew anything other than violence.
To conquer?
To conquer. Because, like, everything, like, history is bloodshed.
Yeah.
Lots of it. Blood, buckets, baths, like.
But you gotta think about it. That's like somebody coming into your home. This is my home now. No, it's not. You don't know what it took for me to get here. You don't know the jobs I had to work. You don't know my things I had to save, things I had to give away. Think about it
But you gotta think, but look at it though, like, Wales made their own thing.
They did, but they did it. Go ahead, babe. I'm sorry.
It's like, to me, from what it sounds like, it's like putting a whole bunch of kids in one room with some very fancy toys.
Yeah.
And they all just keep fighting each other until someone gain all toys.
Yeah.
And whoever want to side with the kid with the most coolest toys, that's what we gonna do. We gonna take his toy and her toy. That's bullying each other. And
yeah, but Wales did it in a way that nobody did it before. They just said, "Oh, look at this land. I'm gonna have this land."
They kept losing.
So
that's the way they did it.
They lost. They found the land, but they lost the land. You know.
And they just kept losing it.
They wanted that one time until the grandson came.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, the grandfather.
Hoping nobody notices. Forgive me for speedrunning through the next several centuries, but I've already done the England plotline once, and that was painful enough. A century after a thwarted independence uprising in 1400, Wales had the good fortune to pull a reverso and put a Welshman on the English throne. The man in question was one Henry VII, notable ender of the War of the Roses, and he set up Wales for greater integration with England and way more rights than they had before. This all became official via the Laws in Wales Acts passed by Henry VIII in the mid-1500s. He drew up county borders, standardized laws, gave Welshmen equal status as Englishmen, and gave Wales representation in Parliament. And as an added bonus of Henry's hop over to Protestantism, the Church translated the Bible into Welsh. Respects the Dragon Lords.
That's the video.
Oh, is it?
That's the video.
I don't think I've heard Welsh language.
No, I don't think I have either. Sounds familiar though.
Yeah, I wonder if they have like slang like, Australia and everywhere else in the world.
Yeah, I'm glad Welsh, like, they tapped into an identity.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? With buildings and knowing what they wanted. And then on top of them, they had all this code. So whoever was really over Welsh at that time really made a lot of money. Yeah. So that was probably a very good period for them.
Yeah, how it was formed and then, eventually lost to England. Interesting. Guys, we don't only have to react to history.
Right.
Okay, so make sure you drop down some fun links for us to try,
yes.
More about the culture, food, things like that. So we hope you guys enjoy learning about Welsh with us. Like this video, subscribe, turn on the post notification bell. We have enabled our super thanks if you like to support the channel that way, as well as our join feature. to join the channel
Check
as a
it out.
VIP member.
Big tough.
Check
Yeah.
out the description box below for our mailing address and more. We'll see you soon.
Peace.
Peace.